anyway, why don't we jump in and get started? So an interesting thing has been happening on these calls, and I think it's even happened last year to some extent, that we start talking and each artist is like, that's what I'm after, or that's what I'm thinking about. And the calls go in this really fascinating direction. So anyway, we'll see what it is tonight, but we are going to start with Michael Blessing. And I suppose maybe what I should ask you is for an update. Did you guys move to Alaska?
Yes, we did.
Wow.
It's been quite an adventure. We traveled in November of last year, arrived on Thanksgiving, which will be 1 year tomorrow. And that adventure continues for sure.
Wow.
So it's been quite something.
Why Alaska?
Well, I've been up here 2 separate times prior, and Megan, my wife, she lived here for about 1.5 years, many years ago. And we've wanted to come up, and our kids are out of the house, and we decided, heck, we're not getting any younger, so if we're going to do this, we probably better do this. And
wow.
We sold everything that we owned except for our studio, and sold the house, and bought a trailer, a 4 Seasons trailer. Came up here, and it's in a parking lot outside of a community center where we rent space, where we paint, and we live in that. We're going to be building a house this coming April.
Wow.
So things are moving, but it's been quite something living in a small trailer, RV. It's very, very good trailer. It's holding up to the weather fine.
Wow.
But anyway, it's been an adventure. It's just been really terrific. And the beauty here is just breathtaking every day. Winter is particularly my favorite. The mountains are just so incredible here. So.
Wow. You sound inspired. And it's so interesting to me because you're not like a landscape painter. You're
yeah, I've certainly got the Western thing, my take on it anyway, going for sure. But I'll tell you one thing, I've been sorely tempted to crack that door open, and I've got some ideas perking in the background, so we'll see what happens.
Wow. Okay. Well, hey, I'm gonna pull up some of your images, and I'm just gonna admit right now that I do not know all of these actors but every time people come into the Coors show, like, you're the artist that when like groups of people come in and they're like, it's over here, you have to see this.
You gotta see the purple cow. Oh my gosh.
And they just stand around your work, and they're like, and you know what? And even I've heard people like recite from movies, like quote movies and stuff. It's really, people love it.
Great. That's great.
Yeah. So, okay. I know this one, Clint Eastwood.
Yes. Clint Eastwood.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Yeah.
So I want you to talk about this, and each of them in particular, but I really want you to talk about how you got on this, because first of all, these are like, they look neon, and until you get up front in person and standing in front of them, I think you could kind of wonder, are these actual neon signs, cowboys?
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
Sure. For my first Russell auction, CM Russell auction, I was a figure painter. I still am a figure painter, but that's all I did was figures at the time. And I was invited to submit, and I did. And I had 2 figure paintings. I was sure one would be taken. However, a gallery in San Luis Obispo picked me up, and from 2 neon signs I did in Missoula, he purchased them, called me and said, I want to represent you, and can I have 20 more?
Wow.
And I went, oh, sure. So I was
Wow.
off and running painting neon signs, and I just have a love of neon. I grew up with it.
Mhm.
So I sent one to the Russell. It was a neon sign. It's the Mint Bar from Sheridan, Wyoming. And the auction set a record. It still holds to this day of many times over the stated value of the piece.
Oh.
So garnered a lot of attention, and boy, the desire for neon signs was really high. That's all I did for about 2.5 years, and I was really missing painting people.
Mm.
So I was sitting on the back deck one summer afternoon, and I just got this idea. Oh my gosh, why don't I just use neon striping as a compositional element on people? And immediately, the good, the bad, the ugly, I saw the whole thing. I just saw it.
Yeah.
So, and I told Megan, I said, oh, I got to do this. She thought I was nuts. She said, I don't know, I don't know, this is a good idea. Anyway, I said, no, I got to do this. So I did, and it's taken off as well. So you're looking at Clint Eastwood here from that idea. It's still going today. And this is my piece of him for the Coors show. It's called Stand.
Mhm.
And yeah, all these guys, my experience of the West growing up was through the movies.
Mm.
Although in high school, I worked on a ranch, herded cows for 2
Oh,
years in high school. So I had some of that experience, but we we herded cows on motorcycles. We didn't use horses, which would
wow.
have been another experience. But
Yeah, don't tell
anyway,
Barbara Van Cleve. She does not like hearing that.
right, I
Yeah,
bet.
don't tell her. Yeah.
Right. So
Um,
yeah.
okay, I'm gonna grab another one here. I'm gonna grab this one. Um, yeah, okay. So yeah, and so there's an interesting kind of so obviously the old westerns, but this neon kind of line kind of going through a number of these pieces this year too as a compositional element.
Yeah, I'm starting to add devices behind as not necessarily a background, but
Mhm.
setting off the composition in a way that breaks up the background. I'll generally put a gradient, like it would be sun has gone down sky. Could
Mhm.
be any number of color schemes behind, but I'll put circles and stripes, and
And why is that? What does that do for the painting?
well, in this case, it breaks up the background in such a way that it places a horizon line behind the image
Hmm.
of John Wayne here, but I lined it up with his eyes. So I
Oh.
wanted people to go to his eyes and the expression on his face, and hence the title, Anticipated Resolution. He's waiting for something. He's ready. Something's coming,
Mm.
and he's ready. So he's in anticipation for
Oh,
what's to arrive. So I just wanted to draw that line in such a way that it would draw to the face, and
wow.
why not
Yeah, and
use a
it does,
non-stripe?
yeah, it does kind of have that warning kind of anticipation of, what's going to happen to it. So, all right, let me grab this one here. And all right, here we go.
This is Lee Marvin, and again, using that horizon to go to his face. This one, and still to this day, I don't know exactly why, but the title is Man from Utopia.
Oh.
And all the time I was painting it, I had the album cover, Man from Utopia, one of Frank Zappa's records back in the day.
Yeah.
And every time I sat down to paint on this, it was Man from Utopia, Man from Utopia. So
Wow.
that's the title. And I don't have any better explanation than that for
That's
the title.
okay. So how do you pick the cowboys or the images that you're going to do? What makes it, what ranks it as something worth that you want to paint?
A lot of times it's the expression in the face.
Mhm.
And it's got to say something to me. I'll peruse, sites and internet images from these old movies, and a good portion of them they don't resonate. There are a lot of things out there, but there are certain ones I'm drawn to, and it starts with the expression on the face. There's something there that needs me to paint that, I guess. And I just apply my treatments to the images that I choose from that point. But it starts with the face, or it even could be a particular stance, like this one of John Wayne. I really like the angles of his legs and boot, and then the arm wrapping around his leg, cradling the rifle, and certainly the expression on his face. But it's these shapes. It's kind of a diagonal. You got two diagonals going on in this square. Yeah.
So talk about the way you painted the face. It's almost like his face is tattooed. Is that part of the movie, or is that?
No. It's kind of a style that's been developing in these pieces over the years. Sometimes I can't get really good reference. They're really poor photographs, and so I get the likeness, but then I just go with what's on those photographs, and it renders shapes, and nothing's blended particularly. It's just shapes, shadow, light, and I just go with it. I just roll with it. And it's a style has developed out of that, that people seem to resonate with.
Wow, it's so interesting. And it does really draw even more attention and curiosity about the face, and maybe what's going on behind it is really interesting. The other thing that I love to point out with your work, because people really do say, is this plugged in? And then they get up and they look and they're like, no, it's not. But I always think it's so fascinating to look at this, like the layers of colors that you're putting together to create that effect, like that lime green, and then there's sort of a bluish, almost turquoise, and then that violet around it. It's really what you're able to do with paint is just so fascinating to me and fun.
Thank you. Yeah, fun. I like fun. It's I do my best to bring something that is thought provoking in the titles, and that relate to the expression and body posture and all.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, having something that's fun to look at has always been, I've been a very big fan of Wayne Thiebaud's work for many years, and he's just got the fun factor down.
Yes, he does.
So that's always resonated with me, and I like to get that out there too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he definitely does. Okay, Michael, stay put. Please go nowhere. I'm going to call on Wida, Tushin, our printmaker. Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you? I'm going to spotlight you, and
I'm out
yeah.
in my studio, and I've got the stove going here, so if it's too noisy, I apologize. I hope you don't. Is it
Yeah,
bothering
you can. Why don't you come closer to your computer and we can hear you a little
Okay.
better? Yeah.
I can lean in because you are at the edge of my big workbench. So,
Okay.
okay, how's that? Is that good enough?
That sounds good. Okay, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and pull up your images. So Rita is in Colorado on the Western Slope, and we have a handful of printmakers in the show. I think we have just really one of the strongest shows out there with printmaking. So, and you are certainly one of our fabulous contributors to that. And I think that, you know, the thing that people are curious about, and are we sharing, can you see my screen share? It doesn't have the line around it.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, good. You know, people are always curious about, I don't want to get too far into process, but maybe if you would kind of talk a little bit about what you're doing. And I think I saw you hold a plate up a little bit ago.
Yeah, I've got a block here I can show just to give you a kind of a visual on. You see the second from the right print, it's called Don't Fence Me In.
Yeah.
Well, I've got the block right here for it, so I can show you. You notice that she's got songbirds up her sleeves and lariat all over her body. And then around the body of the shirt is the text. Oops.
Let me do this. Let me redo the screen share. Sorry.
That's all right.
Let me come back to our screen share with you. Where is our screen share up? Here we go. Sorry. I just want to be able to make my screen bigger, and I couldn't do it on my laptop. So, okay.
All right, there you go. All right, so the text around it is the song, Give Me Land, Lots of Land Under Starry Skies Above, Don't Fence Me In.
I love that song.
So I handwrite that with a pencil. And then the songbirds are part of the composition, but then the one on her right shoulder has decided to take flight. So it's just kind of a little metaphor about not being fenced in.
Oh, how sweet.
Yeah.
So are you doing woodblock reduction?
This is called woodcut reduction, yeah.
Okay.
And the edition size is 9 this time. So we have several to
so
choose.
sorry, you cut out.
People.
Yeah, you cut out. Can you say it again?
Okay.
The edition size?
It's an edition size of 9. It's on Japanese paper, beautiful Okawara paper.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the block. And since it's reduction, that means it's been reduced to the point where it's now destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
I could not pull a print anymore because all of this in here, a lot of the negative space, the birds, the collar, neckline, that's all been carved away. It went through the press. The edition went through the press, I think maybe 17 times.
Wow.
To build the image, you know, one color after another. And each time you do it, you ink, you print, and then you carve away. You ink, print, carve away. So that's what that reduction concept is all about. So it's still a beautiful piece of residual, kind of like ephemera, but it's I couldn't pull another print off of it.
Wow, that's gorgeous. Hey, I'm going to screen share and pull up another one. This one's Rattlesnake Kate, and you have, I mean, Rattlesnake Kate was an actual person in the West, and you have, and tell us her story for people who don't know.
Well, I appreciate you asking, because I'm going to hold this up, see if the screen will capture it. This is her with her rifle posing for probably a newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
She was sort of a folk hero in Greeley, out in Greeley. And so basically she was just a adventurous woman. She was married 6 times. She worked for a taxidermist, which taught her a lot of skills. She was a midwife, she was a bootlegger, and she had one child, a little boy named Ernie. She was born in 1894, and one time she came upon a nest of rattlesnakes and had her son with her on the saddle. She was on a horse, and to protect the horse and herself, she took her rifle and shot all the snakes. And then, like a smart, industrious self-starter, she called the newspaper.
Ah,
How they came out, she strung up a string and she skinned all the snakes and used her taxidermy skills to skin all of these snakes. And they came out and took a picture of her with the string on both ends and all the snake
wow.
skins. But what she ended up doing was she made a dress, and that's what this is about.
Mm.
She made a dress of the snake skins. She made a necklace of the rattlers. She covered a pair of shoes, and she made a little headband, cute headband out of more of the rattlers. And there's pictures of it, but I won't be able to show them. They're too small for you to see. So
So why as an artist, so Weta, why as an artist is this something that you wanted to create a work of art out of?
That's what I was going to say. Was I'm fascinated with the garment as metaphor. It's, to me, the garment has just a rich possibility of meaning for so many things. And in fact, if you take a garment and tweak it in creative ways, you can have it say even more. And so when I moved to Colorado, I was already doing garments. I had done a number of them. And I stumbled on this story about Rattlesnake Kate and her snakeskin dress. And I thought, oh my God, I have got to do a woodcut of that person's dress. And so this was the first print I made on arriving to Denver.
Mm.
And so that's it. It's an edition of 9. It's on that beautiful Japanese paper. And the two snakes on both sides are silver ink with gold tails.
Oh, wow.
It's a real strong statement.
Yeah, yeah. So talk about Red Dress Crow Nation tribute.
Oh, okay. The red dress, I love this. And it's a little bit more abstracted. It's almost like a kimono form.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to sort of be careful about being a white person doing art about Native people. So that's why I call it Red Dress Crow Nation Tribute.
Mm-hmm.
So, I want to honor the crow. Anyway, so this is the block of the red dress. And again, it's the same reduction, and it's been done, and now it's pretty well destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
But the edition again is 9. And the Crow women traditionally wore a red worsted wool. They would buy the red worsted wool from the trading post, and they'd make these ceremonial dresses that were red, and they still do that. It's a tradition. And then they would adorn them with the eye teeth of elk. And it would be a status for the tribe and for the woman. The more eye teeth she had on the garment, the more prestige she had, because her husband, it would infer that her husband was a great hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what this is. She wore the text around it says, and I did that in pencil, it says, she wore the red dress, handmade of wool, and adorned with the eye teeth of elk. Her husband was a great hunter. And so that's what this is. And then the bead shields and patterns behind her are referencing different designs that you see in Crow beadwork and painting.
So what's the connection then? Why the red dress? Why was that something?
Well, because I worked with a gallery in Livingston, Montana, and the Crow they're Plains Indian, and they're established mostly in Montana and Upper Wyoming. So that originally was my impetus, was to do work that was particular for this gallery. And then when I discovered this dress that was, kind of an icon of female Crow women, I just really gravitated towards it.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so it's kind of something that I really try to avoid is exactly what you pointed out, having white people do representations of. And so I guess I'm kind of wondering, like, if you're doing Crow, like, what is your connection, or what was that strong pull?
It's just, it's the pull for me is the garment as a symbol of strong female energy.
Mhm.
And that's why I chose to put that second phrase on it. It says Crow Nation Tribute,
Oh,
just to show my respect.
yeah. And so you tend to do, so all of these that we have are garments. I'm going to pull up Theodora Rough Rider.
Yeah.
And textiles, why textiles?
Well, I have a background in fashion. I have a degree in design, fashion design, and a degree in pattern making. And I worked in the rag trade for about 12 years.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I designed garments. I designed sportswear for women and children's wear and things like that. So I really had, I've always been a sewer. I've always designed clothing for myself. So I just have a kind of an inherent affinity towards apparel as either, designing it or designing it on paper as an art form.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about Theodora Rough Rider. Is this
Well,
an actual person?
this is a fun story. No, it's actually, I just saw this picture. Great ideas come from anywhere and everywhere, right?
Mhm.
And I saw this picture.
So we can't really see that, but I can stop screen sharing when I'm done, and maybe you could show us
Yeah,
then.
all right.
Yeah.
All right, well, that might be good. So I saw this picture of Teddy Roosevelt. He was a young guy. He was born in 1860 something. So he was 24 years old, and he was full of himself, and he thought he was a cowboy, and he has this beautiful buckskin shirt on with a bib front, which is something you see, but not very often in a garment,
Mm-hmm.
in a Western garment, the bib front. And he's got his ammo belt and his pistol. And he's posing for the camera. This was shot the photo was in 1882. And this was at the beginning of the Rough Riders, who were a military group that Teddy Roosevelt led.
Mm-hmm.
And it was part of the Spanish-American War. So that's a whole historical story. So my inclination is to emphasize female. And so I saw him in the shirt and I thought, geez, that's such a great design for a shirt. I think I'll make it feminine. And so I made this shirt design. And so in honor of the inspiration, I call her Theodora Rough Rider.
Fun.
Just as simple as that.
Nice. Okay. So I want to talk about, so you have the ones that I've been holding off on are these three, Ride 'em Cowgirl. Now we have Ride 'em Cowgirl 1 and 3.
Correct.
And so done from the same block?
Yeah. Yeah.
And just experimenting with different colors. Is that what you're doing?
Sticking with the garment theme,
Mm-hmm.
I stumbled on a photo reference of a pair, excuse me, a historic pair of antique women's riding gloves.
Mm-hmm.
and they were buckskin, and they had fringe, just about like that.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, oh my gosh, that would be fun to do as a small print. It ties into the garment, but it's an accessory. And so I designed the pair of women's riding gloves with a lot of ornamentation on the cuffs. They're what we would call a gauntlet glove.
Mm-hmm.
And then I imposed them over a sort of a stylized landscape.
Yeah.
In this case, I did not do reduction. I did it as a lino cut. And this is the block.
Okay. Let me do
So
this.
I can reproduce these. There we go.
Yeah.
So this is my block, and so I can redo them. And so I'm offering 3 of each design in
Mhm.
a very small edition.
Yeah. And so with a lino cut, they're
Mhm.
more durable than the wood.
No, not at all. But it's just that this is not reduction. So in other words, I haven't destroyed it in the process of making it. Yeah. So I can actually use the plate again and again.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Stay there, Wita. We will get back to you. Jay, hello. Would you mind turning off your mute? Unmute.
There we go. Hi, Rose.
Hi. All right. You get the spotlight treatment now. Wow. Okay. Your studio is pretty fantastic.
Thanks. We've been playing around with it during COVID.
Yeah, I can tell. It looks amazing.
Thank you.
Looks like you have lots of room to work in there.
I love it.
Oh God, yeah, I bet. I bet. So, what I get, I was going to ask you in particular, because you're a landscape painter and you spend a lot of time outdoors, freezing your butt off in all kinds of weather. How was COVID for you? Did you have big changes or?
No, nothing really changed. I had some commissions right at the beginning, so that kind of got me rolling without too much interruption. Early on when they were shutting down all businesses, they allowed in the fine print, if you own a business, one person from the business could come and kind of stand guard to make sure nobody broke into your place of business or something. So it's only me here, so I got to come and paint and follow all the rules, and it didn't really interrupt my work at all. If anything, I worked harder because there were less distractions.
Right. Yeah, everything came to such a screeching halt all of a sudden. It was just amazing. Well, hey, I want to dive in and take a look at your work. And you know what? I kind of want to start with this one because it's really unusual for you. The curious one. What and I just okay, so I have this in the gallery and I walked past it and and it was with your other paintings and I almost picked it up and moved it because I try and keep everybody's work together when we're figuring out how to lay out the show. I almost moved it because I'm like, well, that's not Jay's. Like, you have to tell me about this painting. It's so unusual for you.
It is. Well, I come from an illustrator background, so that's kind of, and especially kind of vintage illustrations. So that's kind of what this harkens back to. But believe it or not, I saw these cubs in northern Idaho, and I watched them play around and tussle, and this one climbed up on this rock. There wasn't a beehive, but he was sniffing in this tree like he was fascinated. Some smell or something in this tree. So he stood on his hind legs just like that, and the other one couldn't quite get up to where he was. So it was kind of of the two cubs, he was the curious one.
Wow. Wow, you saw that. How cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so where there's cubs, there's a mama. You know that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So this was actually in a sanctuary. So it was, they had the cubs separate so that there would be no problems with the adults harming the smaller cubs.
Gotcha. Wow. Wow. Okay, that's just a lot of fun. And it has all of your, your elements of the landscape in it. But yeah, I don't know that I've ever really seen you do wildlife in this way where it takes center stage.
Well, yeah, you're right. And I tried to, make it inclusive of the, they're in a landscape, but, and the other three paintings in the show are pretty traditional Jay Moore, what kind of what I'm kind of known for. So I thought, well, I'll just have fun with this fourth one, and it's a smaller one. So hopefully people will allow me a little fun for the fourth one.
Oh my gosh, yes, of course. Now, okay, and I'm going to say this too about these paintings, that like frying pan glow, this really glows. And thankfully we're going to be in person this year, because I think you're one of the artists in the show whose work you need to stand in front of to really absorb it and feel the grandeur of it. And this one in particular, I think, is one that, again, like when I was going over to the bears thinking, well, this is in the wrong place. And then I stopped at that one and I was like, whoa, this one sings. Talk about frying pan glow.
So the frying pan I've come back to, it's one of my favorite rivers, not only for fishing, but for scenery. It's just a super scenic river in that valley. And you have access to it. I love fishing rivers because our landscape painters can come and go as they please. And I brought my waders so I could wade back and forth across the river as I wanted to. So that makes it a really good subject matter. But this year, I had already come back from a long stint in the mountains from painting aspens. And it just dawned on me, like, the cottonwoods, they change a week or two after the aspens.
Oh.
And so I was kind of tired and I was back in the studio, but I'm like, I'm missing all the river stuff. So I packed all my stuff back up and caught the frying pan just like this. And
Wow.
every year is a little bit different. This is a year ago. So 1 year ago from this September. And that's when we had some fires. So there's a little bit of a smoke haze, which made it kind of dreamy.
Yeah.
Just made everything, just added to the atmosphere. And everything is just the way I saw it. There's no, no embellishment, pretty much. There was even a fisherman there when I was, painting.
Really?
So I thought, well, I got to put him in there. And plus it helps for scale and it helps to kind of tell that it's a fly fishing river. And,
Yeah.
but everything was just, sometimes the landscape sort of poses for you. And that's kind of what it did this particular time.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it really did. It really, it's just so amazing because you do feel that the motion of the water in this painting in particular. It's really just lovely. And it does glow. Yeah, I can't wait. And it's 30 by 40. So it's a nice, big, juicy painting. It's so beautiful. And the Crystal River. So you're hitting all the favorites when it comes to Colorado.
There's Colorado has a lot of, actually quite a few beautiful, beautiful rivers. And this one is called Crystal Clear. It's a double meaning because it's the Crystal River, but it's also crystal clear. And especially this time of year when, nothing is really melting. So, other times of year between rain and the snow melt, you get kind of off color, what they call off color for fishing, for fishermen. So there's a little bit of silt or a little, it's not quite as clear, but this time of year in March is when the river's at its clearest. And so you can really, see down deep into the water. So I wanted to not only give a little movement to the water, but really give that illusion of, going into this deep pool.
Well, it has a hypnotic effect to it, actually, looking at it, looking down into it. Do you fish when you're out there painting? Do you actually?
No, I mean, I know Michael Lynch used to talk about bringing his fishing rod with him when he painted, but to me, when I'm painting, it's all business, and when I'm fishing, it's all play. So,
oh, nice.
I don't paint when I fish, and I don't do vice versa. So, no, this was just a painting trip.
Wow. Now, summer current. So this it feels like it has a little bit of that smoky haze as well. Is this one from this past summer or 1 year ago?
Yeah, this is from a few summers ago. This is, I tried to do rivers in different seasons this time.
Oh.
So this is the summer, the other was the winter, and then of course the fall. So the three distinct, seasons in the rivers in all those different seasons. So this is a ranch in western Colorado near Meeker. It's a huge ranch, and they've let me paint there for about the last 18 years. I'm the only artist allowed on their ranch.
Wow.
So I get, it's like having my own national park. I think they have about 30 miles of river on this ranch. So I have plenty of subject matter to paint, but this is just one of those, middle of the day, middle of the summer, life is good, kind of, sitting with your feet in the water, kind of a painting.
Nice. Wow. Yeah, you do. It just does have that warm, wonderful Colorado feel to it. It's really lovely. Now, I seem to remember, do you actually put the latitude and longitude of these paint? Did you do that where you make these?
I used to, and I probably should get back to it. When I was doing it, it seemed like every interview we would just talk about longitude and latitude. And so I kind of got away from it just because it was kind of became a distraction from the actual paintings. But art, historians or art curators always are, encouraging me to get back to that.
Oh.
Because this is a literal place you could sit, and line up the mountains and line up the bushes probably would make sense. Some of the trees may be, moved around, or the rocks might be slightly different, but, plus I back then I was kind of documenting scenes. Now I'm more interpreting scenes. So
Okay, I want to ask you about that. Exactly. And I'm glad you said that, because talk about that, about the interpretation of a scene, because literal documentation, and like I'll see artists who take photos and they literally copy them. You can almost see where the photo was kind of crappy or misaligned or something, because the imagination doesn't go outside of the photo. But when you're here and you're working and painting, there's got to be some interpretation and poetry, if you will, that goes into it. And I want you to talk about that part, because you're definitely a more mature painter these days. You've been at this for a while, and now talk about what you're going for with these paintings.
So yeah, early on, I definitely did. I thought the ultimate goal was to copy what was in front of me. I thought that would be the ultimate, sign of a really good painter. So that's why I put the longitude and latitude. I even thought about putting like copper nails in the ground so people can go find the copper nail and find the spot. But as I'm going on now, I'd say like 4 out of every 10 paintings are at least 50% embellished or made up, or my imagination. I had, 2 of the last 10 don't even exist. The scenes don't, they're based on a view, but I want to like make the mountain a lot more dramatic, or I want to, push the meadow way down, or I want to change the perspective or something. So it's based on a place that I've been, but I'm going for an effect that is different. And so I might even change the lighting, or I might change, throw things in shadow that aren't shadow, like a cloud shadow or something. So, some people, come up and say, where is this? And it's based on a certain place, but it's, it's not, but it doesn't have to be a place. What I want when I paint somewhere, I want people for it to stir emotions in them, to stir memories in them. Like, this reminds me of a river we always used to go at summer camp, or this reminds me of a vacation that we took, or this just has a feeling of this place. So that's what I'm after more now than the actual documentation, is just to evoke a feeling or a memory in them. And the less literal the place is, the more you leave room for that.
Yeah. So what are, for example, in Summer Currents, what are you, as the artist, trying to kind of conduct with this symphony? What would you like to have happen inside the viewer?
So I mean, as a kid, I always, whenever we'd go on a picnic or something, I'd always want to get down in the water. I'd roll my jeans up or something and wade in, or purposely bring shorts so that I could get in the water. And where I grew up, there was always a river, so we'd wade all the way up the river and then all the way back, and you know, find fish and that kind of thing. So I really like to be, you know, in the river. And so you know, let alone fly fishing. So with this, it seems like it's leading you right in to kind of start putting your foot, you know, right in the first part of that river, and at least cool off, if not, you know, start wading into it. So it's designed to kind of, you know, encourage you to put your toe in there, just like on a hot summer day, and cool off. That I have a lot of memories that are like that.
Oh, nice. So when you paint, so this is a big painting too. These are all really good sized paintings. You're not doing these on location. These are studio paintings, right?
Right. So these are all based on studies that were done, you know, on location.
Yeah. So how different are your studies from the finished works? And why bother doing a study? Why not just use photos at this point in your career?
I could. That's the
Yeah.
easy way to go. And sometimes with time constraints, I do have to, you know, to me, plein air painting is a luxury now because I have so many demands for my time, so many deadlines that I have to budget my studio time because, you know, to do a large painting like this, a 30 by 40 might take, you know, 3 weeks or something like that, off and on in the studio. So, you know, you start chalking up, you know, weeks and months of work in the studio. So to get out of I just got back from a week in Arizona, for example, and that was just great to get out. Plus it's just renews you, you know, if you spend too much time in the studio, you can kind of start to rely on your, what you think you know, and then you go back out in nature and you're like, oh no, it really doesn't gradate the way I thought, or the color really isn't what I assumed that it was. So it kind of just rechecks you that you're accurate, and you know, just being out refreshes me too. So if I've been in the studio too long, I get kind of blue or something, and it's like, what's wrong? And I just get back out in the nature, and then I'm back to my old self again.
Wow. Wow, that's really interesting. How many sketches? And actually, let me just say, if everyone who's out there listening, if you have questions, please type them in the chat and I will read those to the artists. So when you are out on location painting, how many paintings do you do? And because they're probably kind of quick, right? Studies?
Yeah, I used to do up to, you know, 30 by 40 out on location, you know, 20 years ago. I didn't do any studio work back then. I just did all plein air work. So now I know what I'm looking for. I'm just looking for color notes, really. I can kind of fill in the information later. So they're usually 6 by 8 or 9 by 10 is all the bigger I go on location anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, so artists, and Michael, I see that you're still there. Blessing, if you would come back on, and Weed is here, and I would love to open it up to you all. Do you have questions for each other? Any questions for each other?
Yes, I have one for Ouida, and that is how she gets the color gradient on a woodcut. Looking at those images, I was seeing these gradients in those garment images, and I was just going, how does that happen?
Oh, it's just skill, that's all.
Well, nice job.
No, actually, I'll give you a real quick technical response. I roll out one color, I roll out another color, and I take the heel of my hand and I tap the ink out.
Okay.
That's a 2-sentence description.
Okay. Well,
Yep.
very effective. Yeah, very effective. Very nice.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. Thank you.
Wow. What about the others? Do you have any questions for each other?
So Michael, what town in Alaska are you nearest to?
And be
We're
careful because Jay is going to come stay on your couch.
That's not why I'm asking, but you
Oh,
never
okay.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, please do. And if you do, please let us know. There's plenty to paint up here, that is for sure. We live in Chugiak, Alaska, which is 20 miles north on the Knik arm of the Cook Inlet, north of Anchorage, 20 miles north of Anchorage.
Oh, wow.
up near Palmer, sort of.
Sort of, yeah. It's not quite that far north. We're about 20 miles south of Palmer, kind of in between Anchorage and Palmer.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, it's an amazing place.
Yeah, you've spent some time up there, haven't you, Jay?
I've done about 6 or 7 trips up there.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to say that, Jay, I wanted to tell you that I also am a painter, but my career is just focused on printmaking. But I love to do plein air. But I want to compliment you because the 3 pieces that I just saw really are effectively communicating the time of day and the time of season.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
summer painting, that light is just exactly summer light.
Mhm.
And you've really caught the light very well. It's very, very ambient and beautiful.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Some landscape painters sort of stay away from midday light. They kind of are attracted
Yeah.
to the evenings and the morning.
Yeah.
But when I
Yeah.
was plein air painting, I would just paint around the clock from dawn to dusk. So I did a lot of sort of midday painting. It is more challenging because you can't rely on shadows like you can, in the other times, but it's just it's a whole nother feeling. It's just kind of like, it's where you get out the watermelon and you put some on the barbecue and that's summertime.
Yeah. No, it's very, very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So Michael, when are you going to get out there and start painting landscapes?
Well, once it warms up, maybe a little bit more than it is now. We had a pretty serious cold snap here, which is unusual for this area. But I don't know. I probably would be thinking in the spring sometime. I've taken some photo reference just of some areas that I would be interested in. So I am looking. I got my eyes open, and we'll see what happens. I've got some ideas. So, have you painted up here, Jay?
Yeah, quite a bit. We rented an RV one trip with my brother and my nephew, and we would just park on the pullout. So we'd watch the sun go down on Denali, and we'd paint that, and then 2 hours later we'd paint the sunrise. So
Oh,
God.
yeah.
it
Wow.
was a fun trip. But
Wow.
yeah, and then there's lots of nice pullouts there on the highway, so they can be warm and have a restroom, and I can venture off and paint wherever I want, hike down to the rivers or whatever. And
Yeah.
so it's just the glaciers and the colors and the waterfalls and there's just so much that the lower 48 does have.
Yeah. Okay. I think I've decided what the connection is with the 3 of you this time is storytellers.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you're all, I think you're all storytellers. Michael, you're looking at these old stories and kind of get them this great fun new twist and making people think about it in a different way. And Weta taking these stories through clothing, which is such a fascinating and novel way to approach stories, and Jay, I mean, just going out there and the story of, and I honestly think you're telling stories about your youth in a lot of these paintings, because there's just so much, warmth and joy in those paintings, and the way you see things is really kind of augments that in my mind. So storytellers, that's what this one's called.
Good.
All right.
I can live with that.
Yeah, that's
Yay.
good.
Hey, so anybody out there have any questions? Otherwise, I think we have a wrap. Oh, I want to say happy Thanksgiving, of course, everybody. Hope you have some fun plans in store. And also I want to tell everybody listening that we will be in person this year. there is a mask mandate that goes to the 3rd. Our show opens on the 4th. I think we're just going to really try and have a uniform and just try and keep people safe. So masks, and we're working on the vaccine situation, and we just want people to feel safe and comfortable coming to the show. So please keep an eye out on the website for that information, and we'll just try and communicate that with everybody. But we are in person. The show will be up the 2nd week in December. So if you want to come and do any previews, we'll let you know how to do that and the times that we're open, and we'll just have to wear a mask and come on in and preview the show. You get to see everything. And then we are open in January. So I think that's all I have. You guys and Weta, anything?
I just had one quick question.
Well,
Since,
I'm sorry.
go ahead, Weta.
I was just going to wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Rose, I just had one quick question since I have you here. This is my first year in person. So the blue jean preview is sort of for everybody to.
No, you have to wear a tux, Jay, and you need to buy a hat. Michael, I'll talk to you offline. I'll talk to you offline about it. But hey, Jay, I've got a question. This is from Jonah Crawford. I think I read somewhere that you learned to paint from Clyde Aspivig. If that's right, is there any connection or any concept he exposed you to that has stuck with you over the years? Also, what color do you find most challenging in landscape?
Wow.
So yes, I took a workshop from Clyde when I was still an illustrator. So he was the one that really kind of shoved me outside and told me, you have to paint from life. And he said, you have to paint every day. And I was like, I got to support a family. I can only paint, once a week. And he's like, nope, you got to paint every day. And he was right. So, and he was very stern, but very right on. He told you what you needed to hear, kind of what everybody else will soft pedal. He would not soft pedal. So he would just give it to you straight. And I would walk out of his studio with my tail between my legs thinking, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And then I would go back for some more, and then I would go back for some more. So no, he was very good. And generous. So, I really appreciated his input. So he was the one that really kind of, and so after that workshop, that's when I made the break and went for 5 years of only plein air painting. So I would paint, I don't know, 200 days a year outside or something.
Wow.
And then what color is the most challenging? Vincent van Gogh said yellow. People talk about greens being challenging, but to me, to gray down a green is pretty easy. There's 100 ways to kind of calm down a green to make it not so bright. But to me, yellows are the most challenging. I agree with Vincent on that, because if you go too bright, it's garish. If you go too dull, it's ugly. So there's a fine line in between there that is palatable. And when like with the aspens, when it's backlit, you really can't get that luminosity unless you're standing there, the Colorado sun shining behind an aspen tree. That's pretty vibrant. So that's my challenge, is trying to get those yellows toned down to where they're palatable, but not, they glow, but not too fake or too Walt Disney is what I call it. So that's the tricky part. And that's where you have to kind of see these paintings in person, because when they're reproduced, it changes those yellows. Even on your computer screen, they've been photographed and then they're on your computer screen. So that would be my answer to that question.
So there you go. You have to come see him in person, everybody, because it's actually all of these works. Michael's works are the same in Weta's, and I love on Weta's work that you just get your nose in there and you can see the layers of paint laying on top of each other. And to really, when you go look at Michael's work and see the colors, the lines of colors next to each other, that creates that neon sensibility. You have to see him in person. And really, Jay's, they absolutely glow. So now I'm trying to figure out where to hang everybody to just make all of these effects happen. But anyways, so I know, super exciting, but okay, any other questions? If not, get back to cooking because tomorrow's Thanksgiving and your family's coming over. So get back to the cooking.
All right.
Thank you, Rose, for doing this. I really appreciate it. I know it's a lot of work, but really,
Thank
really
you,
appreciate
Rose.
your help.
Yeah.
You guys are
Thank you.
welcome and thank you for being here. I know not everybody loves to be interviewed on Zoom, but I know.
Well, well. It went
Yeah,
well.
yeah, it's good. All right, you all, happy Thanksgiving. Don't eat too much. No, that's not what I mean at all. I mean, eat too much. This is your day. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye,
All right.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Mike. See you, Wita.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Rose.